What truly drives human beings? Is it the desire to survive, the pursuit of happiness, or perhaps the relentless ambition to assert our place in the world? Friedrich Nietzsche, the German philosopher whose radical ideas have shaped the course of modern thought, proposes a strikingly different answer. At the core of human existence, Nietzsche contends, is not the mere instinct for survival or a yearning for happiness, but something much more profound, the will to power. This concept, one of Nietzsche's most controversial and revolutionary ideas, challenges our conventional understanding of human nature, morality, and society itself. Nietzsche's notion of the will to power stands as a force that drives all human behavior, suggesting that every action we take is motivated by an inherent desire to grow, assert, and expand our influence. However, this force doesn't merely define individual acts of ambition, but also has a profound impact on how we form moral systems, shape our social relationships, and even how we experience religion and spirituality. Nietzsche's critique of traditional morality and religion, particularly Christianity, presents a radical rethinking of how values and ethical structures come into being and how they can evolve to better reflect our true nature. In this essay, we will examine the concept of the will to power as a driving force in human behavior. We will explore its implications for morality, ethics, and religion, and analyze how this idea challenges centuries of conventional wisdom. This examination will also consider how Nietzsche's philosophy influences modern thought and how it invites individuals to create their own values, to affirm life in all its complexities. Before we delve into the intricacies of Nietzsche's profound philosophy, I want to extend a warm welcome to all of you joining us on the Unfolding Journey YouTube channel. Our mission here is to explore the deep ideas, influential thinkers, and revolutionary philosophies that have shaped and continue to shape human thought. Today's discussion on Nietzsche's will to power is a perfect example of that journey, an intellectual exploration that challenges us to rethink human motivation, morality, and society itself. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. By subscribing, you'll be able to stay updated on new videos that dive deep into the works of thinkers who dared to question the norms of their time. Our goal is to create an ongoing dialogue with you, our viewers, as we uncover and explore some of the most fascinating ideas throughout history. Let's begin today's exploration of Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche's concept of the will to power is perhaps the most radical and influential aspect of his philosophy. Throughout his works, from Thus Spoke Zarathustra to Beyond Good and Evil, Nietzsche develops this idea as the core force that drives all living beings. The will to power, in Nietzsche's view, is not a simple desire for power in the traditional sense, such as political power, wealth, or dominance over others. Instead, it represents a more fundamental drive to grow, assert oneself, and continually overcome obstacles. At its core, the will to power is a desire for self-affirmation, the instinct to expand one's horizons, and to create meaning in an often indifferent and chaotic world. Nietzsche believed that all living things, not just human beings, possess this drive, which transcends mere survival or the instinct to avoid pain. For Nietzsche, the will to power is fundamentally creative. It is about the expression of strength and the potential to reshape one's environment, identity, and experiences. This notion of power is not always about domination over others, but more about self-mastery. Nietzsche's will to power can be understood as an inner force, a drive to transcend one's current state, break free from existing limitations, and become something greater. This could manifest in an artist pushing the boundaries of creativity, a philosopher seeking truth beyond conventional wisdom, or an individual striving to overcome personal hardship. The will to power embodies the relentless pursuit of excellence and the transformation of oneself through strength, creativity, and personal growth. The will to power in human behavior. Understanding the will to power as a driving force helps us interpret human behavior in a more expansive and holistic way. It suggests that everything human beings do, from the most mundane actions to the most profound achievements, is underpinned by this fundamental will to assert and enhance one's existence. Nietzsche's view stands in stark contrast to other psychological or philosophical models that focus on survival, happiness, or pleasure as the central motivators of human life. For example, in the realm of psychology, Sigmund Freud suggested that human behavior is driven primarily by the unconscious desires of the id, particularly the libido, the drive for pleasure and satisfaction. While Nietzsche acknowledges the presence of such desires, he sees them as subservient to the larger force of the will to power, which transcends the pursuit of fleeting pleasures. For Nietzsche, human beings are not just motivated by base instincts or desires for personal satisfaction, but by a deeper drive to assert themselves and expand their power, intellectually, emotionally, socially, and spiritually. Moreover, Nietzsche's philosophy suggests that the pursuit of power should not be understood in a simplistic, one-dimensional manner. Power, in the Nietzschean sense, is deeply connected to the individual's potential for self-overcoming. This drive encourages people to face adversity, challenge their weaknesses, and rise above the limits imposed on them by society, biology, or circumstances. Thus, every human endeavor, from scientific innovation to artistic creation to personal introspection, is seen as a manifestation of the will to power, striving to improve, innovate, and assert itself. The connection between will to power and morality. One of the most profound aspects of Nietzsche's will to power is its relationship with morality. Nietzsche was fiercely critical of traditional morality, particularly Christian moral values, which he believed suppressed the will to power. He saw the dominant moral systems of his time, with their emphasis on humility, meekness, and self-denial, as forms of control designed to limit human potential and creativity. Nietzsche's critique centers on the idea that traditional morality, particularly the Christian values of meekness, humility, and self-sacrifice, arose from what he called slave morality. According to Nietzsche, slave morality developed as a reaction to the oppressive power structures of ancient societies. The weak and oppressed, unable to assert themselves in a world governed by powerful elites, invented a system of values that devalued strength, power, and dominance. These values glorified traits such as humility, submission, and self-sacrifice as virtues, thus creating a moral system that justified the weakness of the oppressed. In contrast, Nietzsche proposed the idea of master morality, which celebrates strength, power, creativity, and individual greatness. Master morality does not denigrate those who are powerful or successful. Instead, it encourages individuals to embrace their power and potential. Nietzsche believed that those who lived according to master morality were able to embrace the full force of the will to power, allowing them to live authentically and without the guilt or shame imposed by traditional moral norms. This distinction between slave and master morality is not just about an individual's personal values, but also informs Nietzsche's critique of societal and religious norms. The will to power, when stifled by religious or social constraints, leads to a life of unfulfilled potential. Nietzsche argued that traditional Christian values, with their emphasis on guilt, sin, and the afterlife, suppress the will to power by encouraging individuals to focus on self-denial rather than self-affirmation. One of the most well-known aspects of Nietzsche's philosophy is his declaration that God is dead. This famous aphorism captures Nietzsche's view that the decline of traditional religious beliefs, particularly Christianity, has profound consequences for both individuals and society. The death of God, for Nietzsche, represents the end of a metaphysical framework that had provided meaning and moral guidance to much of Western civilization. However, Nietzsche did not view this as a nihilistic crisis. Rather, he saw it as an opportunity for the reinvention of values and a reimagining of human potential. Christianity, Nietzsche argued, was built on a system of morality that directly conflicted with the will to power. The Christian emphasis on meekness, charity, and humility was, in Nietzsche's view, an affront to human vitality and strength. Christianity, with its focus on the afterlife and the promise of salvation, encouraged individuals to deny the physical world in favor of a spiritual existence that prioritized suffering and self-sacrifice. Nietzsche's critique of religion was not just a critique of Christianity, specifically, but of all belief systems that he felt undermined the individual's ability to assert their own will and live authentically. He saw traditional religions as forms of life denial, promoting the idea that human beings should sacrifice their desires, instincts, and pleasures for the sake of a transcendent moral order. For Nietzsche, this rejection of earthly life in favor of a focus on the afterlife was a betrayal of the will to power, which seeks to affirm life in all its aspects, including suffering, struggle, and growth. Nietzsche's call for the death of God was not an invitation for moral chaos or a call to abandon ethics entirely. Rather, it was a call for the creation of new values. Values that affirmed life, that embraced human creativity and strength, and that sought to empower individuals to live authentically and in accordance with their own vision. Nietzsche's critique of religion can therefore be understood as a challenge to transcend the limits imposed by external moral systems and to embrace a life that is fully one's own. The Übermensch, the ideal of self-overcoming. In response to the decline of traditional values and the death of God, Nietzsche introduced the concept of the Übermensch, often translated as Overman or Superman. The Übermensch represents the ideal of human potential, an individual who has transcended conventional morality and created their own values. The Übermensch is not bound by societal expectations, religious dogmas, or inherited moral codes. Instead, they live according to their own principles, affirming life and embracing the full scope of their creativity and strength. The Übermensch is the embodiment of the will to power, a figure who constantly overcomes obstacles, faces challenges head-on, and reshapes the world through their unique vision. The Übermensch represents a life of total self-affirmation, where the individual is no longer constrained by guilt, fear, or shame, but instead embraces their instincts, desires, and creativity without apology. Central to Nietzsche's vision of the Übermensch is the idea of self-overcoming, the continual process of breaking through limitations, evolving, and creating something new. This idea is closely linked to Nietzsche's notion of the eternal recurrence, the concept that all events in life repeat infinitely. The Übermensch is the person who can embrace this idea and affirm life with all of its struggles, joys, and contradictions. Friedrich Nietzsche's concept of the will to power stands as one of the most radical and transformative ideas in Western philosophy. By positioning the will to power as the fundamental drive behind all human behavior, Nietzsche redefines human motivation, offering a profound alternative to traditional theories of morality and human nature. His critique of religion and conventional moral systems calls for the creation of new values, ones that affirm life and empower individuals to live authentically. In the modern world, Nietzsche's philosophy continues to resonate, challenging us to question the values we inherit and inspiring us to create our own. As society continues to evolve, Nietzsche's call for self-affirmation, creativity, and personal growth remains a powerful reminder of the potential for human transformation. Nietzsche's will to power encourages us not to accept the world as it is, but to strive for greatness and to create the meaning and values that reflect our deepest aspirations. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Nietzsche's will to power and its implications for human behavior and morality. If you enjoyed this exploration and want to continue uncovering profound ideas from history's most influential thinkers, be sure to subscribe to the Unfolding Journey YouTube channel. Subscribe now and be the first to hear about our next philosophical journey. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments. We love hearing from you and engaging in discussions. Until next time, keep exploring, questioning, and unfolding your own philosophical journey.